I can get along with anybody in the real world, and I've always been empathetic, but social media makes me depressed, and I don't want anything to do with people. Twitter has a lot of toxicity and affects me the most. This is kind of vague, but I feel like people are awesome in real life, but on social media, everyone is self absorbed and toxic. I detest people on social media. I constantly have to take breaks from Insta, Twitter, Facebook, etc. for my mental health. I just feel like one day the depression will spiral until I delete everything for good and disappear. So I really relate to this because at the moment of the time recording, I pretty much only use YouTube in terms of social media. Or I guess social media would also be WhatsApp as well, where I contact literally a few friends and my family. That's it. Now, I used to have things like Instagram. I've never had TikTok. I never will. That's just not going to be a thing. But I used to have Instagram before, and I've got my old account still up there somewhere. But it used to be something which I would use to connect with friends, right? That was something I'd messaged them on there and wouldn't really post unless I, had gone to some sort of, event or something. But point being, it was there. Then eventually it got to a point where when I would be home, when I would perhaps be a bit just sort of on my own with nothing to do, I'd just start scrolling on Instagram. And what I noticed is that I would often see a few groups of people that I've seen around in school who would be out partying, having a good time. And sometimes there wouldn't even necessarily be a party. Sometimes it would just be a gathering at someone's house. But the point being is actually, I remember it being this very same friendship group, which sometimes I spoke to at school, right? I was sort of okay with them, but I always saw them having a good time online. And it started to make me sort of really question, like, oh, am I actually doing much, right? And it made me feel a bit lonely. It made me feel a bit like, oh, well, I'm not really doing much, and I feel like I'm missing out, right? And that stuff crept up, right? It kept popping up over and over. And I got into this pattern where all of a sudden I started to really just hate my life, right? And what's interesting is actually at school, sometimes I would notice that actually this friendship group would also have a good bit of arguments and controversy, which also made me realize, well, hang on a minute, then it can't always be as good as that. And I think this is the whole thing with social media is nobody wants to show a bad presentation of their life, right? And so I think a lot of people on social media are putting on a good persona. And honestly speaking, for me as well, technically speaking, I'm putting on some sort of persona as well, because I'm not going to come online and tell you all of my darkest secrets and all of my mistakes, because that's not really something I want to do. Now, I'll share, some of my sort of, mistakes and things in the past, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, that's that. Now, I think places like Instagram or just stuff like that is a lot worse because all you see is images and very short clips of, honestly speaking, highlights, right? Their highlights, their events people went to, their birthdays, their parties, their whatever. And so when you see that and when you see lots of that, lots of people having a good time out with friends, they look like they're having fun, that's cool, right? It's cool for them, but when you look at that, you feel like you're missing out. And yeah, I can really agree with this post, right? In the sense of, making, for example, the person feeling like depressed and detesting people. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's like, look, people can tell you to not compare yourself to other people, but unconsciously you will always do it, right? You will always be comparing yourself to other people. And my issue is this: if in a day, every single day, you can see tens of hundreds or even thousands, if you spend enough time, of other people's lives, hundreds of thousands of individual other people's lives and the lives they're living, but just the highlights. That is so damaging to what you believe is real, to how you believe you should live your life, and where, just effectively, the whole fear of missing out, like it's intense. It is intense if you can see that many people's highlights. When in reality, people's lives aren't always the highlights. Everyone has problems, people have different problems, but no one is problemless. So the point of this video, I think, is more so the case that, look, if you feel like this guy, which, social media make you feel depressed or detest people, and I've sort of had that, more sort of upsetting and maybe regretful and fear of missing out vibe before, just either really tone down your consumption or get off social media that you don't need to be on, right? I used to be on Instagram. I thought in my head, okay, I need Instagram to message people, which is why I've still got it. Then I got WhatsApp. I got the most relevant people that I needed on WhatsApp, and I got rid of Instagram. So it's like I haven't cut myself off from the world. I've just selected myself for the few people that actually I need myself for. And yeah, like that's it, right? Like I don't need to be on all those platforms. I don't need to be scrolling on there. And honestly speaking, even if I did get Instagram again, I'd probably have it on my laptop instead of my phone. Because just having a lot of social media on your phone is just asking for you to start scrolling when you get bored. So let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know if you're someone that is, or perhaps it has in the past had issues with social media. Maybe you sort of had that fear of missing out stuff. I'd be interested to know because obviously this is just my experience. But let me know your thoughts and I'll chat soon.